What is up, YouTube? It's Roy Millsy. We're at Hometown Commander. We're playing another episode of Millsy Brews Show Our Broom version, my version 1.0 deck list of the Commander in front of us on my quest to brew a Magic. Well, as always, the deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. I would highly appreciate it if you could interact with the video for me, like, comment, subscribe, do all the good YouTube stuff. We are continuing through Modern Horizons 3. I am having a ton of fun with the set itself, with the commanders. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. Today we're talking about the Necrobloom, an Abzan commander that I think in a lot of ways has been everything I kind of wanted on an Abzan Landfall commander, and I'm trying to hold myself back from immediately testing this for myself, so let's get into it. The Necrobloom is a 4-mana Abzan 2/7 legendary creature plant. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. That wouldn't be a bad ability in its own right. I mean, that's kind of that, field of the dead style effect. But we add on that all land cards in our graveyard have Dredge too, which was a part of the card that just kind of blew my mind because there are a couple really great commanders, notably the Gitrog, that cares about Dredge. And this deck, I'm going to be honest, this deck is a gold mine of value. I think there's a lot of ways you can take this. There's a lot of things we can do. Of course, we care about landfall. We're going to care about the tokens. We're going to care about graveyards. I've been looking for an Abzan deck for a long time that hits a couple of things for me, and I think this might be it. So I'm actually going to be trying this deck on my own, and I'll update y'all in the future about how this one goes. But let's go into it. Landfall. I feel like we've seen so much landfall over the last two sets of cards. We get to be in black and white this time instead of the Naya, Deserts decks that we saw in Thunder Junction. So we get to play the Nissa from Zendikar Rising, one of my favorites. Whenever a land ETBs under your control, put a loyalty counter on her. +1 can untap a land and make it an elemental, but the -5 you can put a creature card with mana value less than equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with 2 counters on it. A great ability, and can definitely pay us off for dredging lands back to our hand or doing other dredge shenanigans. Asia Green Warden lets us play lands from our graveyard, which means we don't necessarily have to dredge them to get them back. And if a land comes in, it triggers all abilities additional time. Great to have these Panharmonicon style effects for land triggers, because some of them are so good. Avenger of Zendikar makes a 0/1 plant for each land we control when it comes in. And then whenever a land DTBs, we put a +1/+1 count each plant we control, which is also Necrobloom. So it's always nice to see that little piece of interaction. Azusa lets us play 2 additional lands in each of our turns, meaning that if we can play lands of our graveyard, we can really take advantage of that. We can play Elish Nor, mainly because it's just going to double up our landfall triggers and shut down our opponents. It's always good when we can play Mommy in a deck, and I think she fits this deck so well. Lotus Cobra adds us some animated color when a land comes in. This really helps out when our lands are coming in tapped. If we can't use something like, if we don't have something like Spelunking out, just to make sure we're getting mana for every land that comes in. Nissa, Resurgent Animist from the Aftermath. Whenever a land comes in, we're getting a mana of any color, so that Lotus Cobra effect. But if it's the second time it happened this turn, reveal until we hit an elf or elemental and put it into our hand. There's a lot of great elementals and elves we have in the deck, so we're happy to do that. We're in black, so we get to play Obnixilis the Fallen. Whenever a land comes in, you may have a target player lose 3 life. If you do, put 3 counters on it. Can get out of hand really fast, and we are happy to let that happen. Rampaging Balos makes us a 4/4 beast every time a land comes in. Springheart Nintuko is a new card from Modern Horizons 3 that everybody's talking about, and seems to combo with a paper bag when it comes to landfall. But you can bestow it onto a creature, so just treat it as an aura on a creature. Has landfall. Whenever a land, ETBs under your control, you may pay 1 in the green. If you do, you create a copy of the creature it's attached to. There's a lot of things you can attach this to make it really go out of hand, and I can't wait to see this on a table in front of me. Tyler's Provision, if a land comes in, food or treasure, and then Retreat to Hagra. Whenever land comes in, we can have each opponent lose a life when we gain a life. So lots of landfall triggers, plenty more. These are just my picks for the highlights. But let's get into the token payoffs, because at the end of the day, Necrobloom is making tokens. And like any good Abzan deck, we want to pay off the tokens. And let's pick one of the most popular commander in these 3 colors for tokens. That's Shatterfang. Shatterfang is a great card in its own right, meaning we're going to get a 1/1 squirrel anytime we make any other tokens. I need that many squirrels where we make that many tokens. Has removal on the bottom, and it combos a lot of things. I love Chatterfang, and I'd be very happy to put Chatterfang in this deck. Kimball, Profiteering Mayor. Whenever one more tokens come into our opponent's control, we get a copy of them for each of them. Only once per turn, though. And then whenever one or more tokens come into our control, each opponent loses life and you gain life. This is that great, ability that we can use to hopefully just constantly be churning out these triggers and hurting our opponents, so that we don't necessarily have to do everything in combat, can just whittle away our opponents. I think Abzan, decks, when we care about these aristocratic style effects, these token effects get really good at just ticking and ticking our opponent's lives down. Mirkwood Bats, whenever we create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. Great, we love it. We'll happily take advantage of it. Idol of Oblivion will let us draw every turn as long as we made a token, which is not going to be very hard in this deck considering how many landfall abilities make tokens. Feldar Retreat can either make us a token when a land comes in, or put a counter on our entire board and give them vigilance. I love Feldar Retreat in a deck like this because the more plants of those zombies we have lying around, the better that second ability becomes. And then City and Roost feels like a slam dunk here. Creature tokens we control have tapped Adamantine color. This is great because all those plants and all those zombies are going to allow us to tap for mana and keep going on our turns. But it says whenever one of our creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 0/1 plant creature token, and then put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. This is a great ability because we built some ways to kind of reanimate into our deck, which we'll talk about in a second, or other ways to interact with our graveyard in our deck. And this is great because then when those creatures come back out of our graveyard, we're making a plant and putting a counter on all of our plants and just building those plants up to become a sizable army that our opponents have to deal with. So we talked about the lands, we talked about tokens. Let's talk about the graveyard. We're in black. Let's take advantage of being in black, and we're going to talk about some of my favorite cards in these 3-color combinations. In all reality, most of them are in green and black. But the first one I want to talk about just off the rip is the Gitrog. The Gitrog monster is a very popular commander in its own right. A CDH commander in its own right, I believe, if not a very strong commander in itself. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice it unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and over one or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. This works great with dredging lands back out of our graveyard, putting new cards, milling 2 off the top to do that dredge, and if you hit another land, you can dredge it again, draw cards. Gitrog is a value engine. The new 6 of Modern Horizons 3 looks really good. Whenever you attack, you mill 3, you can put a land from among them back into your hand. And this is as long as your turn, non-land permanents in your graveyard have a trace, meaning you can pitch a land to play them out of your graveyard. That's pretty great because it pairs with all these other things coming back out of your graveyard, the Insidious Roots, the Gitrog, all these different abilities. 6 fits so well what we're trying to do. And 6's counterpart in their most recent form, Renin Realmbreaker, comes down as a Chromatic Lantern effect for us. It can untap some lands. We can mill 3 and put a permanent from among them back into our hand. Or for the -7, we can just play lands and cast spells from our graveyard. I love that ability. It does take a little bit of work to get to, but I think the milling itself could just be good enough to get us there in a lot of ways and get things into our graveyard. Titania says that whenever a land is put from a graveyard into a graveyard from land that we control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, we make an elemental. This is great when we start dealing with things that let us sacrifice lands for benefit and then play them back out of our graveyard. We'll talk a little bit of that. Turn Timber Sower says whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, make a plant. This is great when we're milling and dredging from all those abilities. We could sack 3 creatures and return a land from our graveyard to our hand. So kind of interesting ability. I think more or less we care about that first one. Life from the Loam, one of the most popular dredge cards, especially in our format. Return up to 3 target lands from your graveyard to your hand and we can dredge 3. This is a great one because you can dredge 3, get it back, bring some lands back to your hand, it goes back into your graveyard, and you can dredge it again. A great card can definitely enable a lot of value in this deck, depending on what route you want to go with it. Victimize is going to let us reanimate some creatures that are in our graveyard by just sacrificing a plant or one of those zombies we have laying around. Victimize feels great in this deck. Yes, those creatures come back in tapped, but someone board wipes and doesn't exile a lot of our key creatures, we can just get them back. Counter to Worlds lets us play lands from our graveyard, but we can try to get an on-land permanent back. We can't cast anything else that turn if we do it, but it could get us a key thing back. And then Zurin Orb is one of the best ways for us to pay off sacrificing lands and having them go from the battlefield to the graveyard and being able to get them back, just gaining some life for doing it. It's an instant speed ability, and if we have the right things out, we can just keep playing things back from our graveyard, gaining life, getting all those graveyard triggers, and just amassing great value. It's hard to talk about the Necrobloom without getting into a lot of just really good value. In fact, we'll get into the playtest here, and I'll show you some of the ways that we can have some fun with the deck. But at the end of the day, no deck is perfect. I don't think this list is perfect by any means, and I cannot wait to test it and make it more fun. But let's talk about some cards that I pitched out of the brewing that I really wanted to bring back in. The first is Sylvan Safekeeper. Sack a land to give a creature we control Shroud until end of turn. Sack a land abilities are probably going to be really important, I imagine, if we take this deck further. So I could see Safekeeper coming back in pretty immediately if that's the route we want to go. I think that pays off things like Gitrog really well. It pays off things like Titania really well. So I could see Safekeeper being a pretty obvious pull back in after testing once we realize if our deck's going that way. Greensleeves is one of my favorite Landfall creatures for... tokens, just making a 3/3 badger every time a land comes in. It's a star with stars number of lands you control. Just a great creature that can get big, but also make you tokens. And then Parallel Lives, just to double up the money tokens we make. I mean, the doubler effects are somewhat important at the end of the day. I've chose to focus the deck more on getting multiple landfall triggers per turn and worrying about it that way rather than doubling the amount of tokens. But I can definitely understand if someone wanted to focus on just doubling the tokens anyway. That's your choice. I could completely understand if you choose to do that. But let's hop into a playtest. Keeping a 4 lands with an Oracle Moldiah 6 and Culling Ritual. I like it. It's a good starting hand. Let's rock with it. We have a couple lands that come in tapped, so let's get one of them in tapped. The cycling lands can be really good with Necrobloom as we get into the mid-game because we can cycle them to draw a card and then dredge them back if we wanted to potentially set up more things. So that's something to keep in mind as we keep rocking. At least in my hand at the moment, if I want to get Necrobloom out, I'm going to have to at least get one of them down tapped. So I guess I'll just get one of them in tapped down. Again, nothing I can do this turn. 6 might not be bad next turn, just so we can get things rocking. Well, Remnant Excavator ain't bad either, but let's get that 6 down. This is going to allow us to start milling some cards and get some things into our graveyard that we can use that retrace for. So I like it. That's going to set up a good value engine. Turn 4, there's no way for us to play the land after the Necrobloom comes down, so we need to get it down and get it rocking. Here I would attack with 6, mill 3, milling a Cabal, Plains, and Argoth. So we are playing both Argoth and Titania, Voice of Gaia in the deck. Argoth is nice just because it can mill cards and potentially get some things into our graveyard. And it comes in tapped unless we control a legendary green creature, which we do. So I will put that one to hand with 6. Plains and Cabal going into our graveyard and set us up here for next turn. This turn, we can get an Argoth. We could get an Urza's Cave to potentially get 2 landfall triggers this turn. We can go Oracle to play multiple lands. It's always an option. Lets us play lands off the top as well. We have the Crop Rotation to go get a land we really want and get on the battlefield tapped and get another landfall trigger. This is where a lot of what you want to see out of the deck, is what you want to get. I kind of like the idea of the Felder Retreat. Getting the Argoth that's going to come in untapped because of the Necrobloom and the 6. We would get 2 triggers, the Felder Retreat trigger and the Necrobloom trigger. I would just go ahead and make the plant. And I think I make the Cat Beast here. We could potentially get another land drop this turn to get the counters, but I think we want to go a little bit wide before we start putting counters on. And then I guess we could probably attack with 6, load up our graveyard a little bit more, take the Lush Portico. Remember, we can get these things back out of our graveyard multiple ways because they have retrace now. Non-land permanents have retrace. So we can't get the Anguish of Making, but we can get Chatterfang back. And in fact, I think we want to get Chatterfang back at some point because Chatterfang is a great card. So I think I would Crop Rotation probably on my opponent's turn whenever they... maybe during somebody's end step or during somebody's where there's some downtime and I can get this off. There's no land I can think of in particular that I really, really want. I mean, the question that I've all kind of found for the deck is, do we want to be making zombies or do we want to be making plants? You know what I mean? We have great payoffs for both. We can get a Field of the Dead and, double up on them if we want to, which doesn't seem like a bad idea. That'll get us another trigger and I'll just make another Cat Beast. Again, just keep going a little bit wide and getting the party going. Draft turn Assassin's Trophy, great on piece of removal. Let's see. I want the Chatterfang back. The Chatterfang seems like it would be a really good thing to have. So I'm going to pitch the Tranquil Cove. Or what is that? Tranquil... Oh, Slippery Cast. I don't know why I was thinking Tranquil Cove. And I'm going to get that Chatterfang back. Chatterfang seems like a card that would be really great to have as we go forward. We could also get that Kumbal back. Oh, we can cast it from our graveyard. Sweet. I for a second I thought we couldn't. So that's 3 there. We would need 1 more mana to cast the Kumbal, and I guess I have no way of doing it without getting a land in. So I would get the land in. We would have a trigger. We'd have the Necrobloom trigger and the Feldar Retreat trigger. I would make a plant, which would make me a squirrel, right? And then I see a good argument for Pulse and Pulse Encounters here and Vigilance, just because we could take some big attacks, but I also see another argument for another Cat Beast and another Squirrel. So I think that's what I'm going to do, another Cat Beast, another Squirrel. Now I would have, let's see, if I go with this, and this for Chatterfang, now I would have the right mana to Kumbal. So I would, I guess, pitch Lush Portico and get back that Kumbal. Now we have another way to, feed ourselves in the future to hurt our opponents. And I think this is a board state we'd love to see. Ren can attack, or 6 can attack, mill some cards. And again, we just need next turn to put a +1/+1 counter, start the Vigilance train, start, getting the tokens with these, doing the damage with Kumbal. I like this board state, and I think we're working towards the right area. So let's go with another playtest. Here we're keeping a 1, 2, 3 lander with all of our colors. Eerie Ultimatum, Ancient Green Warden, Mirkwood Bats, Assassin's Trophy. I like it. I think we just need 1 more land for it to be really profitable. And we see a Plains, so we'll take it. Nothing to do turn 1. I don't think we're going to really have anything to do turn 2 either. We need a Swamp Down to be able to play that Assassin's Trophy. We see Titania. This would be a fun card to talk about. So when 1 or more lands are put into our graveyard from anywhere, we gain 2 life, which is pretty great. Beginning of our upkeep, if there are 4 more cards in your land cards in the graveyard and you own both Titania and Argoth, you can meld them into Titania, Gaia Incarnate, and it's a great card. I've been looking to put Titania Voice of Gaia in a deck for a long time, and I think this is a really good one with how much you can dredge and really get things into your graveyard. Here, I guess I just hold up the Assassin's Trophy. Nothing too pretty to do this turn. Turn 4, get the Plains down, get a Necrobloom down, set up for next turn where we can potentially get some lands in. Here, I like the Provisioner because it can get us a treasure. The treasure can help us get down some of our double green cards in our hand. I like Mirkwood Bats here to do some life. I think I'd probably go Tyler's Provisioner, get the clearing down. This is going to give us a plant, and I'm going to make the treasures so that way we have some extra mana. Would give us 2 mana this turn, a black, and then this I would probably just hold up Assassin's Trophy again just to make sure we don't need to take out something really important. I mean, we could attack with the Necrobloom. I don't see it being a great attacker until you get some counters on it, but, maybe if someone's open, you can smack in for a 2/7. Here we draw a Canopy Vista, which would come in untapped. But before we do that, let's see if it's worth putting anything in. Green Warden, we could play here, sack the treasure. That would give us double triggers, which could be interesting. We could Moldaya and see what we get off the top. I think that the idea of Green Warden, because we can play lands from our graveyard, but now when we play the Vista, we get double. We would get 2 plants, and then I would just go ahead and make 2 treasures off the Provisioner, which is really great. Now we're going to start, really, really picking up. I don't think I have anything left to do with the 2 mana except just keep Assassin's Trophy up in case our opponents have something. We'll go to the next turn. Nixilis is a great one. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have any lands to play. Now, we could do the Moldaya here. Play with the top of our library revealed, and we can play lands top of our library. Unfortunately, crop rotation isn't one. Although what we could do is, because we can play lands from our library, we could sack this Silent Clearing, which would tap all the rest of our lands, but it would let us draw a card, draw that crop rotation, and we see a Farseek on top. I was really hoping to try to get a land off the top there, but that's okay. But we can now play that Silent Clearing back out of our graveyard because of Green Warden. And that's going to get us still 2 more plants, 2 more treasures. Now we got a bunch of mana saved up. I like the idea of the crop rotation. We can save that for a second. I can put a treasure into clearing to, again, draw the Farseek and play it back out of our graveyard, because we get to play an additional land. So that was land 1 for the turn. I think I would do it. I would put a treasure into the clearing to sack it, draw the Farseek, reveal a Terramorphic Expanse. Okay. If we play that for turn, we can get 2 more plants, 2 more treasures. We could play the clearing again and set up another one of these little loops. That's what's kind of nice about these Horizon lands that, can sack to draw a card, is because you can kind of loop them, right, when you have these ways to play them from your graveyard. I'll probably do that. Let's play it back from my graveyard. 2 more treasures, 2 more plants. And now we're just looking for a way to really turn this board state into something fun. And I think that's the end of my turn. I mean, I could take a swing with the Green Warden if somebody's got a good attack, but if not, we'll draw that Terramorphic Expanse for turn, seeing it in Dotha Triumph. I think I'm willing to play that off the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're still 1 off of Necrobloom. I guess the question is, should we have played something before that? Mirkwood probably. Probably should have been my play before that, now that I think about it. Because then when I play this, we're making 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 life to our opponents, right? Then, so that's 4 mana. We've got 3 mana left, or 2 mana left, plus all of our treasures. I like the idea of playing my forest off the top. Now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 lands. So now I'm making zombies. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 more damage to our opponents because we're making 4. And I think at this point, I think I've demonstrated basically where our end game is going to be. We're looking for a way to turn our board into lethal attackers, or just make enough tokens to run this game out. I don't think it would be all that hard. We have enough mana to Farseek. We have enough mana to crop rotation. We could go find like Field of the Dead and make even more tokens with the crop rotation. You know what I mean? I think this is a good board state to kind of show you the the fun it can get. But what do you think of the Necrobloom? Again, this is a deck I'm going to try for myself. I love the Gitrog, and I've been trying to use it in a deck for a long time. I love that I can play things like Thalian Gitrog. I can play that Titania that can meld. I can play Comball and Chatterfang. I like that this deck is both tokens and landfall, both things I really like, so I can't wait to check it out. But let me know what you think of Necrobloom down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next.